Hey everyone, welcome along. It's great to have you join us today, along with Palo Alto Networks. Morning, Alex. How are you?
Morning, Russell. I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks. A little
Thanks for
chilly,
having me,
but
mate.
got the fire going, so I'm all good.
Our fireside chat, I could do with a little bit of warmth right now, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's it. Good old winter has hit. So we'll just let everyone join, and then we'll get stuck straight into understanding more about Palo Alto Networks and their capability across OT networks. I do encourage our audience that are joining today to please ask any questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer those throughout today's session. This will be recorded and available afterwards. So please continue to ask any questions that pop to mind, and yeah, we'll answer those post this session as well. So yeah, Alex, great to have you here. Thanks for joining. I'm really
Thanks,
excited
Russell.
to learn more about Palo, mate. We'll get started. If you can please just explain a little about yourself, your journey, and explain Palo Alto Networks, what you're doing exactly across OT. Over to you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Russell. Thanks for having me. So I'm Alex Nehmy. I'm the Regional Chief Security Officer for Critical Industries at Palo Alto Networks. I cover all of Asia Pacific and Japan, but my background is 23 years in cybersecurity. I've consulted for KPMG many years ago. I was the first CISO of the University of Adelaide. I was their CISO for 7 years and built up the entire cybersecurity team there, which was a fantastic experience. And then I spent 7 years securing SA Power Networks. So I helped build the entire security capability at SA Power Networks from scratch and spent 7 years there as their CISO, where I secured the entire organization. So not just IT, but also the OT environment and basically the electricity distribution system for South Australia, which was a fantastic experience, bringing IT and OT together, which is no mean feat. It was a challenge, but it was rewarding. And from there, I went to BAE Systems Australia as their CISO. So really enjoyed my time at BAE, and then joined Palo Alto Networks. And what we do at Palo Alto Networks is secure IT environments, secure OT environments, secure the cloud, and secure your security operations center and your security ops as well. But, when it comes to OT at Palo Alto Networks, most people actually don't think of us as an OT vendor. We're new to the OT space, but we've really invested heavily over the past number of years, and we've built a really strong OT capability. So our industrial cybersecurity capabilities stretch from OT security to IoT, which you'd see in offices and smart cities and smart buildings, and also IoMT. So that is the Internet of Medical Things, securing hospitals and hospital environments. And in a nutshell, what Palo Alto does in the market around OT security is a number of things. Firstly, know your assets. We give visibility of all of the OT assets on an environment through passive and also active discovery of those assets. We let customers know the cybersecurity health of their devices. So we show them the vulnerabilities and we show them the misconfigurations within their OT assets. But we also give visualizations of the OT environment, so customers can see what's happening in OT. They can see what's talking to what. They can even see the segmentation based on the Purdue model. But on top of that, we block the threats to actually secure your most critical assets. And we have a really strong automation capability where you can get all of that rich OT data that we have out of our systems, and you can integrate with things like network access control, SIEMs, and even populate an asset management database. So we've built up a really strong OT capability at Palo Alto Networks, and we're having a lot of success in the market securing OT and industrial organizations.
Yeah, that's great to hear. With the engagements Secolve are doing currently, there's a lot of demand for asset discovery, and mapping out communications across those OT networks. So it's good to hear that you have those capabilities. I'm interested to hear on how you're bringing those IT and OT teams together, or how you historically have done that as well. So we'll cover that later on in today's chat, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So with Palo, Alex, what sets you apart with your OT offerings in market?
Sure. Visibility of assets is really critical, right? You can't secure what you can't see. And that is number one. It's the first step of that cybersecurity maturity journey within OT. But really, our key differentiators in the market are blocking the assets. So our OT capability is built into a firewall. So we are an enforcement point. We can identify the threats, but we can also stop those threats as they're traversing your OT environment before they affect your most critical OT systems. And then expanding on our capabilities as a firewall, we're a full layer 7 firewall. So we can do that zero trust network segmentation to put your most critical OT assets, like your control systems, in secure network zones that protects them from threats. We can make sure that only safe traffic gets to the OT assets. We can make sure that only users that are approved gets access to those critical OT systems, and also only the applications that are approved are allowed to traverse the OT network. And we do all of this on one single device within your OT environment. So most organizations are looking at putting in a firewall plus a sensor. We do all of this within the firewall. You can literally enable the OT capability as a subscription on any Palo Alto Networks firewall, physical, virtual, or SASE cloud delivered. So they're really our three key differentiators in the market.
Interesting. So I know Palo work across a variety of sectors, as do Secolve. What are the current trends you're seeing across the broad market? And what would you say is the current state of OT maturity?
It's really interesting, Russell, right? So, I come from an IT security background, and I have been specializing and focusing in OT security for about the past decade. But I would have to say that OT security, in my opinion, is about 10 years or more behind IT security. And, let's take visibility of assets, which we talked about earlier, and you said customers are really interested in. As the first point, imagine in an IT environment, having, let's say, 30% of your assets just completely invisible. You don't know where 30% of your desktops are. You don't know where 30% of your servers are, or even your cloud-based assets. What we're seeing in OT environments is, the OT assets and the IoT assets generally makes up about 30% of the attack surface for the organization. But most organizations don't know where their assets are. They don't know what assets they've got. And, visibility I see as being the key challenge for organizations, which they start out solving. And that's the first step on the maturity journey. Other challenges are network segmentation. Imagine having a critical IT system that was responsible for keeping your entire organization up, and just having no firewalling or network segmentation around that. The assets, are really exposed. Other challenges are remote operations. OT environments are increasingly modern and digital, and they need third parties to come in and access the OT environment to maintain and update and manage these OT systems. So now, once you've got third parties coming in, you're really expanding that attack surface within your OT environment to those third-party organizations. And, if we pivot back to IT and have a look at some of the major compromises that have occurred within IT over the past number of years, the big breaches, most of those occurred through third-party access. Some other challenges that I'd love to talk to you are about, the cultural challenges, IT versus OT. It's amazing. We're all working for the same organization. We're all on the same team, and yet IT and OT just constantly fight each other. And then probably the other is cloud. OT has this really strong negative reaction to using the cloud and embracing the cloud. So, there are quite some significant challenges there that OT really is challenged with. And we really need to focus and double down on getting over those to get the security where it needs to be.
Yeah, you mentioned cloud there. I know a lot of today's innovative products are based in the cloud and come with the cloud. So what are your thoughts on the industry's hesitation with the cloud and OT?
OT has always wanted everything within their four walls. If you have a look at the convergence between IT and OT, OT didn't want to be connected to IT, and they fought it and they fought it. They tried to have the air gap, but the air gap is dead. OT and IT have very much converged, and they're highly integrated. But the reason why they converged is because OT really is the heart of any organization, and the business decisions are made within the IT environment. So the IT people need the data from OT to come into these business systems so they can get that real-time visibility into what's happening in the heart of their organization, and they can make the best business decisions around efficiency and running their business. So data has driven that IT OT convergence, and I really think that data will also drive that OT cloud convergence. Organizations are going to want to use the power of AI and machine learning, the really powerful analytics that you get from that scalability in the cloud. And so therefore, they're going to want to send their OT data to the cloud. They're going to want to have insights into that data driven by machine learning. They're going to want to have predictive analytics. So, the cloud is inevitable. Have a look at where IT has come from. IT has merged with the cloud. You can no longer draw that line between where IT starts and finishes and where the cloud starts and finishes. OT is going to have to move to the cloud to get that visibility into their data, but also to use innovative cybersecurity solutions that can secure these critical environments. So the cloud's nothing to be scared of. IT's done it. The sky hasn't fallen in. Cloud can be done securely, and it really is time, for OT to embrace the cloud. And I think embrace the cloud in a low risk kind of way, where we're not sending control system data in the cloud. We're not putting our control systems in the cloud, but we are putting the IoT data in the cloud, the data that gives us the visibility, but doesn't necessarily have control or make real-time life and death decisions over OT industrial environments. So the cloud's inevitable, and we really need, I think, a generational change, a cultural shift in OT, where the younger engineers have grown up with the cloud. They're cloud native, and they just embrace the cloud because that's how they do IT and data analytics. So yeah, OT has a big seismic cultural change ahead of it with adopting the cloud.
And very related to that is a question just raised by one of our audience members. They're interested in understanding IIoT, maybe not cloud, but likely talks to or is related to the cloud. As the OT assets or products change with this different generation coming through, what are your thoughts on that? How do we secure those changes coming with the new products and whatnot?
So IoT is industrial IoT, and thanks for the question, Bruce, and thanks for attending, mate. Good to see you. IoT are those little digital sensors that are monitoring OT environments. They're even monitoring buildings and smart cities. They're monitoring the physical world, and they're collecting data about how the physical world is operating. But then they have to send that data somewhere to be analyzed and assessed. And organizations are going to want to embrace the power of AI in the cloud. So therefore, IoT is generally going to be sending their data up to cloud repositories for AI and ML to work on. And these devices are increasingly digital, they're increasingly small, and they're being deployed in huge numbers throughout organizations. So, securing IIoT is a new paradigm. It involves least privileged segmentation. It involves actually securing these devices, patching them, maintaining them, hardening them, updating them with the latest firmware, and it involves securing that cloud connectivity. So this is a huge change from OT organizations that have gone from having really antiquated, analog OT assets with a lifespan of 50 years to small, modern, digital industrial IoT devices that are deployed with shorter lifespans and much more compute within them. It's a paradigm shift. It's happening really quickly.
Yeah, great. So you've got several years' experience as a CISO, Alex. Talk us through how you've brought the IT and the OT teams or staff together to work more effectively. Maybe if you can share what strategies or best practices you use there.
It was a huge challenge. It took, I would say, every ounce of effort, energy, and diplomacy that I had to bring IT and OT together. But I would wholeheartedly say that we got there, especially at SA Power Networks. And the OT folk are great. And you know what? We all work for the same organization. We all have the same goals in mind. We just have a different viewpoint about, what good looks like, what secure looks like, what priorities we have. And what worked for me as a CISO securing OT environments was firstly understanding OT. I mean, OT is a different world from IT. I had to really walk a mile in their shoes. I had to go and visit substations, walk into a substation. It's like a different universe. Firstly, there was a big sign on the front gate of the substation with a skull and crossbones, and the sign just said, danger, death. I mean, you don't see that when you walk into an office and log into your computer to send an email in an IT environment. It is a different universe. So you have to visit the sites. You have to understand what they are dealing with on a day-to-day basis and really work with the OT folk to help them achieve their objectives securely. And their objectives are safety. Number one, non-negotiable is safety. Second is availability. Keep the power running, keep the machinery running, keep the water running, keep the lights on. And safety and availability in a modern OT environment are driven by these digital OT systems. They're driven by OT computing environments. So when you're dealing with a computing environment, cybersecurity is an absolute non-negotiable in a digital environment. So if you lose the cybersecurity of the OT environment, you've lost integrity. Once you lose integrity, you can no longer ensure that these OT systems will operate as you expect. They will no longer be safe and they may no longer be available. So, I really think tying in that cybersecurity message to the core objectives of any OT team, which is safety and availability, is a really critical message, not just for the engineers, but for the executive and the board as well. But other things that worked were co-locating the teams, sitting together, working with them, shoulder to shoulder. You get to know them. You really build that camaraderie. We went to conferences together. We went out together. We broke bread together. We had shared investments and shared roadmaps. So, it's multifaceted, but a CISO and IT specialists, I think, really need to go and walk a mile in the shoes of OT specialists to understand their world, so then you can better fit cybersecurity around their objectives. Because as a CISO, you're here for the business to meet their objectives, and OT is the heart of the business. Their objectives are the business's objectives, and cybersecurity has a responsibility to enable OT to meet their objectives, but to do that in a secure manner. And it's not easy. They won't welcome you in with open arms. You need to earn that. You need to walk a mile in their shoes. It takes time. It's culture change, but it can be done.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The OT environments are the heart of the organisation. As we form OT cybersecurity strategies, we ensure we speak to those operators, we understand those business requirements from the operations teams to build that into the strategy. So it's a really great way to do it. So I
Yes.
believe we've got a link, Alex, to your website explaining all the different capabilities across OT. Is there anything else you'd like to touch on today?
Really, just to say thank you to Secolve for having myself and for having Palo Alto Networks on this LinkedIn Live. Secolve are a fantastic partner. I have been searching for partners that focus specifically on OT and really understand OT inside out. And Secolve is that partner for Palo Alto Networks. And we absolutely love working with you guys. We had a fantastic event in Brisbane recently on the rooftop bar at the top of your offices, which was great. And it was just
We
a really
appreciate you sponsoring that event. Lots of people had fun. Thanks for that.
It was a great night. It was our pleasure. So I just wanted to say thank you to Secolve for hosting today, and thank you so much for your partnership. It means a lot.
No worries. We do have one last question that's been brought up. If you look at that there, Alex, we'll answer that before we head off.
Okay, so at the end of the day, you're always as strong as your weakest link. How do you go about addressing OT concerns by design? For example, the vendor's delivering a solution that can only the solution they're used to understanding, and the contract is locked in. Yeah, difficult one. I think when you're securing an OT environment, you do need to secure it by design. But I think one of the key critical fundamentals, especially when you're dealing, with a solution that might not be ideal or dealing with a partner that might not be ideal, is really making sure that you use a risk-based approach. So the most critical OT assets that you have must have the greatest focus for cybersecurity. Say it's a control system that runs your electricity system, or the control system that runs a manufacturing line. We need to make sure that our resources around cybersecurity go into the most critical assets first. That would be the control system, and I would put them in a secure network zone using least privilege and zero trust principles to reduce that attack surface. But then managing and maintaining and updating those OT assets is also critical to keep them in a secure state. So yes, you're only as strong as your weakest link. However, if you can secure your most high risk and critical systems, you're reducing that risk exposure that you have and helping secure your OT environment.
Yeah, we mentioned market trends just a little while ago, and a recommendation from Secolve is to take absolutely that risk-based approach. Mm-hmm. We like to use risk assessments to inform the future state architectures and products, make sure that threat scenarios are aligned to what we understand of the environment, and make sure you're addressing those prioritized risks at the end of the day with your future state designs.
Definitely.
So thanks for the question. And thanks, Alex. Really good to hear what Palo are up to in the OT space, and looking forward to working with you more in the future.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Please ask any questions post this event, and we'll get back to you. See ya.
See ya.